How are you guys doing?
So well.
Awesome sauce. My name is Brittney. I do lots of voiceovers for anime, and other things, amongst other things. I like to do my Q&As where if you provide the Q, I'll provide the A. If not, I talk about pizza.
Yeah.
So that's your combination. So I like pepperoni pizza. Yes.
Pineapple acceptable.
Yes, totally. Anything, put it on the pizza. Look, man, I mean, if we do anime, everything should be acceptable. You know what I mean? Like, we're in an all-acceptable world of acceptable things.
Pretty much.
But yeah. So, does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Has there been any like crazy stories that you have, like either at a con or in the booth or anything like that you willing to share?
I have so many. Okay, so one of the funniest things that ever happened in the booth, I was recording Shin-Chan, and there was this, like, the whole time that I recorded, I was going for bit parts all the time, and there was this, like, weird jar there. It had a sheet over it, like a little piece of paper, like a jar, like this. And it was there every time I recorded for months at a time, and finally I got curious. I was like, I should probably check out this jar. So they were like, okay, we're taking a break, and I was like, all right. And I took the sheet off the jar, and then they came and they ran to like the door and held it closed, and it was a fart. You guys, it held on however long. I don't know if somebody was refreshing it, or it was just like a really good fart that lasted forever. I don't know what happened. All I know is it breathed. And they held the door closed. And I was like, get me out! And they were like, ah! And it was horrible, y'all. It was so bad. Oh my gosh, worst thing ever. I didn't ask. I was just curious about the jar.
I was gonna say, why didn't you ask what was in the jar?
It had been there for months. How does a fart last that long, you guys?
That feels like the seven. What's in the box?
Yeah, if you jar a fart, it will last for months. Is
Pandora's box.
Pandora's
that
jar.
was a good one. Another interesting story that a lot of people like to hear is my story about my murder room. So I went to a con in Florida, and it was the experience. It was one of the first experiences, anime experiences. And it wasn't their fault. They had no idea where they were booking the room at. And this place was so dilapidated that there were like tractor parts in the pool. Like there was like connections to tractors like hanging out in the pool. Yeah, it was like a one-story. Every room that you got had a kitchenette type deal, like almost like a townhouse type deal. You know what I mean? But it was all one stories, like in little circles. I was complaining because my room was so cold. It was freezing cold in the middle of the summer, triple digits, and I was so cold. So I called them, and then I had someone come in, and they were like, well, it's not plugged in. I was like, wow, that's creepy. Okay. So later on, I had my liaison, Tom, which is a really awesome guy, hanging out with me, and he was like in front of the air conditioning, and he's talking to me, and I'm laying on the bed, and he's like, what is that behind your head? And I was like, what are you talking about? And I look back, and it's like sticky, and the varnish is gone. And there's like little bits of hair and blood pieces and like skin and knotted into the headboard in this circular cleaned area. And I was like, wow, that's scary. And then I looked to the left, and like it's like one of those where the lamp is connected to the wall, type of like that little gold square. That's got the lamp on it. Yeah, you guys have seen it.
Yeah.
So the back of it is covered in blood, and like completely covered in blood and brain matter. And then I decided to investigate around the room, and everything had been cleaned. Like the varnish had been sticky from being cleaned with bleach. If that makes any sense. Like everything was connecting. Like I put my drink down and it wouldn't come back up. Type of deal. And the curtains had like a little hand that had grabbed onto the curtain and been ripped off. But it was smaller than my hand. It was a itty bitty little baby hand. It was just terrifying. So I went up to the front and I was like, so did someone die in my room? And it was Florida, and apparently there they don't have to tell you, because they were like, hold on. With someone, and they went in the back, and they came back, and they were like, we had a CSI convention. And they were like, it's fake blood. And I was like, really? I didn't know fake blood turned brown. I was like, I'm an actress, I've worked with fake blood, and it's made of corn syrup, and it definitely doesn't coagulate, turn brown, and get hair and skin in it. But cool, yeah, I believe you. Totally. But yeah, so that was my scary room that I had in Florida. Apparently, they don't have to tell you. In Texas, it's the law.
That sounds like such a Florida law.
It was definitely a Florida law. Yeah, in Texas, they have to let you know if something happened. It's like the law.
I'm picturing a lobbying effort to get that passed.
That place was closed down like immediately. I think it was already in the process of getting closed down when I was staying at it. And, but yeah, that was my #1 experience of crazy hotel rooms. Everybody's like, did you stay in the room? And yes, I did. I was hoping to meet someone, but I didn't. I was like, you know.
No living.
Yeah, I living or dead, I wanted to meet someone. It would be cool.
It's also a law to list a house haunted if it's haunted. So.
Yeah, in Texas, you have to say if someone had passed away in the house or if something had happened that's like part of the law. It's not in Florida, which we found out later, and it was scary. But I do anime, and I would love it if you guys had a question for anime. If you want to talk about anime, yeah. Ooh, all the questions. Oh my goodness. I'll start from the front and I'll work to the back.
Okay, so I'm starting with a big old question here.
Ooh, giant question.
Two-parter. First, what would you say is the role that you are most well known for?
And a long time ago, I would say Makoto Misaka, but now anything from Dragon Ball Z is usually notable. So Kusu from Dragon Ball Z, Cammy from My Hero Academia, Wendy from Fairy Tail, and Makoto Misaka, Black Star. Was quite notable from Soul Eater. Icarus from Heaven's Lost Property. Migi from Parasite the Maxim. Pretty much if it went on TV, that one is notable.
And then counterpart to that, which role do you recall most fond?
Most fun. That's hard because I've never gone into the booth and not enjoyed myself or been happy to be there.
Sure.
It's like you audition like 50 times to 100 times, book one role. When you book a role, you're super ecstatic to be there. You know, there's never a time I go into the booth and I'm like, oh, I hate being. I'm always really happy to be there. So there's never a role that I don't like enjoy.
I'm sorry. Is there a type of role that you like find that you gravitate more towards?
I mean, I like a challenge. So it's fun to play boys. It's fun to play someone maybe evil, snarky, or mean because I try not to be that in my regular life. So it's almost like an outlet to like anything you build up trying to be a nice human, you know? And then you can go in and be like an evil, horrible character and get that out. But it is fun to play those roles. Anything that isn't something you can do in your normal life. I can't be a boy in my normal life. So it's fun to play a boy. You know, or something like that. Like stage is limiting. You know, I mostly because of my size couldn't play even an adult woman on stage. It wasn't like believable because I'm 4'11". You know, so like I'm 33 years old, but I don't necessarily look that age because I'm 4'11". So you know, and I could play a boy, but it would be like only in Peter Pan or only in this or that. You know, what's great about anime is it gives you that outlet to play characters you couldn't normally play. And I feel like anything like that was fun. But there's never a time I go into the booth and don't enjoy being there. Even if it's Walla, even if it's anything, you know? Yeah, go ahead, yes?
Kind of building off of that, is there any role that you're hoping you'll get someday?
Like everything. No, yeah, everything I audition for, but yes, of course there's things that I audition for that I really hope and, you know, pray I get, but at the same time, if I don't book it, usually it's someone booking it that I, like, know and appreciate and respect their acting and admire their acting, so it's like, you know, if a role gets booked by Monica Rial, I'm like, heck yes, girl, get it, you know what I mean? Like, I love her, and I want her to book everything, so that's kind of the cool thing about anime is we're a little community. So when someone else gets a role, I'm like, oh, okay, that was perfect for them. You know, everything that you do isn't perfect for you. So, and you're usually friends with the people you're like, oh yes, okay, that's perfect. If it's them, I'm all good, you know? So, you know, but yes, anytime I audition, of course I want the role. I'd love to have the role and be honored. But I know that every role isn't for me. if that makes any sense. Yeah.
With the final season of Fairy Tale coming out, do you know anything about what happens to Wendy?
I do. I can't say anything because spoilers. But yes, I do know. I don't know if everybody's caught up. I usually ask people like if they've seen Dragon Cry. Anybody? No? Okay. Whew. Just if you haven't seen it, because people haven't seen it, and I don't want to ruin it for you, just have tissues ready and be ready to sob. Oh no. Like that's what I did when I saw it, because I was it was super tragic. But also, it made me have feelings for a cat, which made me feel weird because because you guys know why. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're super cute. What's going on? I don't know. Yeah, Fairy Tale gives you the feels. It's hard to talk about it without giving away spoilers because there's so many episodes that people aren't caught up, and then it's one of those things. It's like that time I got reincarnated as a slime. Like, what do I say? It's being like simuldubbed right now, and I don't want to spoil it for other people. But if you have any questions that are like specific that I can't answer for you afterwards, I'd love to answer them for you because I know all about the manga and all about the stuff, but I don't want to spoil it for anyone that hasn't seen it. So it makes it like limited what you can answer, but. I want to answer it, so please come up to me afterwards so I can. Yes.
So this is also kind of a two-piece question because I just kind of want to get out of the way because I meant to ask you earlier and I kept forgetting. But one is how was it? Because I know that kind of the accelerator arc in the A Certain World happens both in Index 1 and Railgun S. And so those were a decent chunk of time apart, you can tell by the animation. And how was it to kind of like re-see that from a very slightly different perspective with the Makotos?
I feel like everything that has to do with any of the Misakas is, for me, like so pumped with excitement. Like, it's one of the characters I really truly love. And she has, like I had said before in my last thing, like she has dynamic. She changes as a character. And a lot of anime's characters are stagnant. Like they don't change. Wendy changes in Fairy Tale. Black Star does not change.
No.
So that's an example of a very developed character, but not necessarily a character that develops in the anime. You know what I mean? Like it's a stagnant character. It's always that character. Makoto Misaka changes and develops within. Like, she has a background that you don't necessarily, even at this point, know. You don't know everything about her. You don't know everything about Wendy, right? So, like, any character like that that has that mystery behind them, for me, I'm, like, excited to be part of it. But when it comes to Misaka's, we still don't know everything. Like, I feel like no matter what, she's always has, like, development behind her that... You know, so I guess the feeling is that it's always sort of a mystery. You know, even now, they just made Misaka Worst, and she's brand new and different, and yeah, but brand new for me, brand new, and so everything about her is exciting for me because she's always developing. I was literally showing her off a few minutes ago, like I was like, Misaka Worst, check this out. I mean, she's amazing, you know?
And so kind of the second one of my question was, it's been a lot of talk about the fact that they're really speeding through Index right now for season 3 because the whole plan is to finish this one base arc and then redo the entire thing.
Yeah.
And I was wondering how you felt about kind of getting to see Makoto from the beginning with all that you now know about her.
I mean, it's like it's conflicting because you almost feel like you developed that whole character already, and then you're like, oh my gosh, it's all brand new. But also, it's wonderful because it's like a new journey, you know, with a character that you love, and I've like adapted, like, what's the word? I relate to her in a lot of ways. And so it's an adventure. It's a brand new adventure with a character that I love. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm also nervous. I hope it goes ways that I would enjoy because I'm so invested in her as a character, if that makes sense. So I'm really excited for the Accelerator arc, and all the stuff that's gonna happen, and I hope it all goes well because like I said, I'm really invested and I really love her. So if it goes bad, I'm gonna be like, no. So I'm really hoping it all goes well. But yeah, so yeah, I hope I answered that correctly. Yeah. Okay. Because sometimes it hurts. But yeah, yes.
I'm curious. Tell us a little bit about your experiences with flip flappers.
Oh gosh, flip flappers. Okay, first of all, every world is different, and I'm having so much fun. Someone was saying like, oh, Papika sounds like this person, and I'm like, no, because every world she sounds different, and that's what's so magical about it. Like the bunny world with the chords and the chewing, that was the most random thing I've ever seen, and it's beautiful. It's beautifully animated. Right? It is a visual bomb, you guys, and every episode is different. You can't say that you've seen the show from seeing 1 or 2 episodes, because you haven't. You haven't seen that character develop, because she changes every single time. I hope they make a new one, because we could develop a lot more on the characters and the shards. But just the idea of every time you go into your mysterious world and changing is really fun. It's a fun idea. Like every time you go into your alternate reality, it's a new reality. And you have to adjust every time. It's pretty neat. It's one of my daughter's favorite ones. I only show her, obviously, bits and pieces, but she appreciates it. Her favorite is the chewing on the chords funny episode. Because, yeah, naturally. But, yeah, yes.
What was it like working on a set of Soul Eater?
Well, when I first auditioned for Soul Eater, I thought it was an accident that they attached a boy to the sides. So I was recording in the closet for my friend Afshar, and he has like a studio. Now he has like a real live studio. At the time it was kind of his closet, and he had soundproofing and some stuff. Now he does like all of the Source Connect for Funimation in Houston. But at the time, he was like, hey, and I'm like in there, I'm in the closet with the soundproofing, and I can only hear him in my cans, and he's like, they attached a boy to the sides. And I was like, really? Let's do it, why not? And I did the most crazy thing I could think of. Like the most wacky, insane version of a human being I could think of. I was like, yeah! Like I thought that I would make them laugh. That's all it was. I just was like, well, you know what? They attached this, it was an accident, but at least I can make them giggle. So I did the thing that I thought would make them laugh. I thought Zach would laugh. And then I booked it. And I remember being like, what? And I went like the whole way up to Funimation on this 4.5-hour drive trying to do the boy voice. Like, oh my god, I'm so terrified, I'm so terrified. And the funny thing was, is every time I recorded, like they kept having to lower the mic because I kept being below it. I don't know why, but I thought he had a low center of gravity, and I just kept squatting. So I feel like Blackstar has a low center. He hangs out close to the ground.
Yeah, he does. He totally does.
He's a heavy-footed. Like I just imagine him having like crazy calves or something. I don't know. He's a low center of gravity character, and I kept like going down and down and down. They kept having to change the mic. And then eventually, when I finally got everything down, they would just like mess with me, and they would play Excalibur for like.
Oh god!
I was so frustrated because they'd be like, it was Golden Monday. No, it was a Tuesday. And then it would work for that character, you know, because Buster has a certain amount of frustration behind him, right? Yeah. So like it was really good for that, and we had a good time with him. He was my first boy character, and ever since I've been playing boy characters, but he was my first one, so it was very challenging, and I cared. I can't even tell you how much I care about him. It's immense. But yeah, he was a challenge and a blessing, and also kind of reminded me a lot of my little brother. Like, he might annoy me, but I love him so much, right? And he's kind of a turd, but he's like, I still, like, I love him. I'd do anything for him, you know? And that's kind of how I feel about Blackstar as a character. And I could relate to him in that way, is that he was my little brother. You know, my little brother, by the way, is like 1.5 years younger than me. He's not actually little. He just was little to me. But what was funny is when I was auditioning, my little brother used to answer the phone when my friends would call. And I was like, I just got into high school, it was my freshman year, and he's still in middle school, and he'd be like, hello. The phone, and I'd be like, oh, okay, whatever. So like, that was a little bit of my audition with Blackstar, was like imitating my brother, a little bit. And kind of pretending to be him, and just, because I love him so much, I could put that love into that character, if that makes sense. Because he was my little brother to me, but my little brother isn't nearly as much of a turd. But, you know what I mean, he had his turd moments, right? So, you know, the color on the wall, blame it on me. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, Blackstar is very near and dear to my heart. Forever. Like, forever. Yes?
Out of any performance, out of all performance so far, how do you pull on the British accent, just like your performance as Cecilia from Infinite Strength?
Well, okay, so Cecilia Alcott, in specific, was a lot of line reads from Matt Greenfield, who, when he does an English accent, sounds a little bit like Mary Poppins. And it was super, super fun. When I first did a British role, I had a friend in my film class, and she was British, and she kind of coached me on placement. So my biggest problem when doing a British accent was the place that I was putting it in. Every accent has a place in your mouth. Like maybe if you were singing, if you can think about it, if you're trying to hit a high pitch, right? You have to go, ah, and it lifts your soft palate, right? So like there's a placement for every accent in your mouth, as weird as that is. So like if you speak Spanish, it is really close and it's up here. That's why when somebody who speaks Spanish speaks English, it sounds similar to someone else that speaks Spanish that speaks English, right? It's because they're putting it in the placement of Spanish, but they're speaking English. That's where accents come from, right? Does that make sense? So it's where the accent, where the language is originally spoken, and then you put it into English in that place, and that's what makes the accent. I don't know if I'm making any sense. I'm trying to make sense.
A little bit.
Yeah, okay, so,
I get a sense.
So if you were saying like something in English, the placement would be at the bottom of your teeth. So if you take what you're going to say and you put it at the bottom of your teeth, it changes the sound of what you're saying. And you're saying the same thing, but it's just in a different placement. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if I put it right here, that's a British accent. And there's different placements for every accent, right, in English. So it is where the language is spoken naturally, and then you put the English there, if that makes any sense. I know it sounds kind of complicated. But yeah, so like Spanish is very far forward. If you were doing a Russian accent, which I'm not quite good at, but those are usually like lifted in the soft palate and a little bit back, and they're higher pitched. And then English is kind of at the bottom down here, and you don't open your mouth that much. It's very right here, right? And then Cockney is a little bit more lifted as an accent. And then they have F's in exchange for THs and things like that. So there's like kind of tricks to them. And then, I mean, I can't totally carry something forever, but you know what I mean? I couldn't like speak in an accent all day to someone. I'd probably fall out of it at some point. I am from Texas. But it has a lot to do with the placement of where it is. And someone that was from London helped me out with the British accent. And she helped me by saying, put it to the bottom of your teeth. And I was like, okay, so if you're just speaking the way you speak, but you just place it down here, it's going to change the sound, if that makes any sense. So, yeah, it has to do with placement in your mouth. Like, if I do differences in voices, I don't change my pitch. I just change the placement. So, how can I explain this?
Like when I'm doing Wendy, I don't actually change the pitch of my voice. I'm changing the placement.
And I can like go back into my voice and you can hear the pitch didn't change. It's just where it is, placement-wise, right?
If I do a boy, it's the same place as where I speak.
But then, right, you can hear it, it's the exact same place. It's the same pitch. I'm just affecting it in a different way. I'm changing my soft palate, I'm changing my rhythm, and I'm changing what emphasis I put on what noun and vowel. Right, and that's what changes the voice. It's not a change in pitch. It's a change in effect, in action. If that makes sense. I hope it does. Yes.
So, if I remember correctly, when you did a Q&A in your first appearance here in Detour 07, you mentioned that was your first appearance as a featured guest at any convention. So with what you've experienced over the ensuing dozen years, what would you tell your younger self back then, if you could?
I would say that it's not personal. I think that would be my biggest tip to myself, is that if you don't get booked in something that isn't a personal thing, it's just that you weren't right for the role. A lot of times with this industry, you can feel that you didn't book something because someone doesn't like you. But that's not the actual thing that happened. It's just that you weren't chosen by the Japanese, by the producers, by the directors because you weren't right for the role. And the rejection that happens in acting is so common that it can kind of morph. You know, if in y'all's, anybody's job that you think of, like my husband's job, he does like inspections for sprinkler systems for huge corporate buildings. So if he was constantly told that he was doing, you know, oh, he's not right for this job and he's not right for this job, effectively he would think that he's not. He should choose a different job. And in acting, that's not the case. So you have to be able to accept rejection over and over and over again and still keep going for the same role, if that makes any sense. So I would tell myself that rejection shouldn't stop you and you should just get back up on that horse, so to say in Texas speak. And don't let anybody knock you down or tell you you're not good enough, because you have to be able to deal with a whole lot of rejection. You know, I mean, I probably do 150 auditions before I book one role. I constantly do auditions. And you don't book them. But that doesn't mean you're bad. It just means you're not right for that role. And that's a lot of people who try to do voice acting. That rejection is really hard on them because they'll get rejection with some notes. The notes are meant to be effective. They're meant to be like work on this. Not, you're not good enough. You know? And if you are an actor, that's hard to deal with because if you do like stage acting or something like that, you get immediate feedback from the audience. You know, you do a joke and nobody laughs, you know it's not a good joke. You won't do it again, you know? But when you do voice acting, you can audition and audition and audition, and you can't figure out why you can't book that role, or why you can't book this kind of role, or what you're doing wrong. But really, it's not necessarily that you're doing something wrong, you're just not necessarily right, or someone's better at it. And I think I would tell myself 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, to not take it so personally, because it isn't personal, it's just the job. Right? Yeah. I think that's where I would go with that. Yes?
So, I'm a giant Soul Eater fan.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, kind of a two-part question, but the first part has multiple parts. So if you could, it doesn't matter gender or character type, if you could switch your role, instead of being Black Star, being someone else, who would you pick, why, and can you do an impression?
Oh man, Black Star's my favorite. It's hard to like anybody else. I love how true he is.
Would it have to be from Soul Eater or in general?
From Soul Eater.
Soul Eater. I think that'll be Death the Kid.
Yes. Yes.
The reason is because I hate him so much.
Yes.
It would be fun to be on the other side of that, I think. But also, like, there's some fun between Black Star and Death the Kid, I feel like. Because I have so many people that come out, they're like, well, my favorite is this. And I'm like, nah. You know what I mean? Like, but he's like the exact opposite of that character. He's controlled. He's contained. He knows exactly where he wants to go. Everything is lined out. And Black Star is a giant, hot mess of a person. Right?
So basically me.
Yeah, well, that's who I am. I'm a hot mess of a person. But it might be nice to have everything lined out for you, right? Know where you're going and have everything perfect. And I know everything isn't perfect for him. Of course, he has conflict in that everything isn't perfect. But I do admire his character a lot. And I feel like if I had to choose one, it would be definitely Death.
And the other one is when you and Todd were working on the Excalibur episode. What did you like Like, those are probably one of my favorite episodes because, like, food. Yes, Excalibur. Just everything. Anyway, when you guys were working on that, what were your guys' opinion on the characters? Like, the character of Excalibur and, like, all of the stuff, like, with Death the Kid and Black Star working together? Like, what was your guys' opinion on that?
Well, first of all, the actor playing Excalibur, I adore. And I think he's amazing. Yes, Troy Baker. And I mean, he's an amazing actor. So anything he does is actually something to admire. But at the same time, that character is ultimately obnoxious. I mean, like, way more than Black Star in my... I thought Black Star was obnoxious, and then I met him, and I was like, oh my god! Like, because they would play it before I recorded. It would be like Zach had this thing before recording, like, I need you to listen to something, and he'd play like 3 minutes of him just... Because Troy apparently would just keep going.
Oh no!
No. Actually in the anime, but it would just be him like, perhaps it was a golden Monday. No, it was a Wednesday. I was reading stories to 15 people. I remember there was a morning, and it would go on and on. So I was so like frustrated with him, which was good for acting, right? You know, like for the development of that character. But yeah, Zach would just mess with us and just the director would just play him. So I found him really frustrating. But as an actor, I find Troy Baker to be phenomenal. So it's like part of my soul is like super respects the character, and then part of me is like, you're the most annoying thing that's ever happened, because he's really good at what he's doing. Because he's supposed to be annoying. I remember recording it, and whenever the fairy came up, and there was the face.
The Excalibur face.
I was like, why is he making that face? And Zach's like, you're gonna find out. And then every time we did an episode afterwards, I had to listen to it over and over, and by then, I hated it. I just needed it.
Yeah.
So,
You have the song Rise?
What song?
The Excalibur song.
No, I don't. I don't even remember.
We do!
I don't know it, y'all. Oh, I'm so disappointed in myself.
We've even got an Excalibur here.
I have it memorized.
I did too.
If you read these stories, I'm going to be upset. Not allowed to do story time.
No.
Don't worry, your mother threw me into an ocean, so...
I would literally put you back, and I was a horrible person. I'm sorry, Crona, but Excalibur, no. Black Star, you're cool. Excalibur, no.
No, man. Like, I thought the Black Star was the most boring. Excalibur, relevant. But yeah, no. It's kind of like those turds you love, right? Go ahead. Before you keep on saying that. I don't know why. I was just...
Okay. What's your opinion on Dusk Maiden?
It's an awesome show, man.
I love it.
You know, let's see. What can I say about it? I don't know. It's like awesome. I just enjoy it. I feel like I could say something like different about it, but I have nothing bad to say about that show. It was a great show.
Too short.
Yeah, I needed more. I feel like that about Angel Beats.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Angel Beats.
Yuri was my first character that was actually like tough. You know? And that wasn't a child. Like, I played a bunch of children, and then there was Yuri. And she...
Cry every time.
She was like independent, the first independent character I ever had. Yeah, when people come up to me, they're like, I like Angel Beats. I'm like, so you like to cry?
Yes.
Do you know what regular sign mine?
What?
See you later.
I used to write Shut Up and Die, but people like, that didn't see the show used to think that was horrible. But it wasn't, because that just means see you tomorrow.
Yeah, pretty much.
I did warn, like, just in case.
He said, like, would you like me to sign see you? I'm like, yeah, hit me.
Yeah, I changed it to the Welcome to the Not Yet Dead Battlefront after that, because I was like, I'm going to get in trouble over this. People are like, that's so horrible. I'm like, no, they get, like, reincarnated. They're going to be back next time. It pretty much just means see you tomorrow, you're annoying me, but yeah. It's kind of like with Black Star. I used to sign want my autograph, because that's very Black Star.
Yes,
you know, Black
it
Star,
is.
but people who didn't know the character would be like, wow, she's really full of herself. Like, oh my gosh, I'm not as weird as a character. Dust Maiden of Amnesia was like the bomb, you know. I wish I could say something else outside of that, but like I have nothing.
Knew more about it. It's so underappreciated.
There's so many
watched
like
it
that.
too, and
though,
it's
you
so
know?
amazing.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I don't know what else to say because I really respect the show. It's
Okanogi was just the best because of you.
oh, thank you. I'm not worried. Thank you. I'm dating myself with Wayne's World. But...
What's Wayne's World?
Don't say what's Wayne's World. I feel so old. You are not older than me. No way.
I am 36 in 2 months.
Okay, only a couple years older than me.
I'm 33.
Me too.
I'm younger than you, but I know Wayne's World.
Well, Wayne's World is pretty legit.
Yeah, it is. I watched it with my girlfriend a few days ago.
Okay, but what? Okay, I'm done. Sorry. Yes.
Okay, so this is like kind of two things for two of your characters. This is one for both maybe this weird change of tone. First of all, pride.
Kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies.
That was, and then my other one. What was it like being Yachi in Haikyuu?
Amazing. She's like a real character. She is like a real human being, if that makes any sense. A lot of animes don't have, you know, a lot about the character isn't realistic. She seems like a real live college student, like right out of college, you know, and her conflict was real. Like she just wanted to do good at her job, and she was great at it, and she was kind of quirky and a little bit, her nervousness was adorable, right?
Yep.
Like how she was nervous about what was going to happen, and who was going to win, and how the characters were interacting with each other. That was adorable, and I loved that about her. I was really happy to be part of it, because I was watching the show before I was ever part of it, and I thought it was amazing. You know?
It made me really like volleyball. I didn't
Yeah.
get volleyball, but I'm like, this is awesome. I want to play this now.
Definitely. Like the only sport I play is eating.
Yes.
So I literally.
It would be perfect.
Yeah, I play no sports. I just eat. But that made me interested in a sport I might have never been interested in if it wasn't for that show. But she was realistic and quirky in a fun way. She was fun. Yeah. What was your other one?
Pride.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a little ditzy. I apologize. You said both. Sorry.
Doing backwards moving.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm like short and I can't see anybody. Yes.
So there's a bunch of new anime series that are going to be coming out in the future, this year and possibly into the next year. Are there any anime series in particular that you would love to land a role in? And if so, why?
I mean, yes, all of them, because because I enjoy acting. But there are things that I haven't been able to announce that I wish I could talk about that are very fun.
Of course not.
That I've had like great times in. I'm really looking forward to Railgun S. Not S. Sorry, Railgun 3. Railgun 3. I don't know what it'll be.
The next one.
S or something else? Are they going to choose a new letter? I don't know.
They're probably deciding
2 letters.
I don't know. Maybe 2 letters.
2 letters.
Anything with Makoto Misaka that I'm really looking forward to. I wish they would make a new Soul Eater.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd be real happy about that. Not Soul Eater not, because it was not Soul Eater.
It was not
but,
Soul Eater.
Another one?
The original ending from the manga. Do that ending.
Yes.
Exactly. Something, yeah, anything like that. But honestly, anytime that I get to audition, I hope for the role, and you know, anytime I get to work is a blessing. So anything I could do, I would enjoy and be happy to be part of. You know. I hope that the new Railgun is as exciting as I'm so invested in what it's going to be. So
after all they've done, I'm hopeful.
Yeah,
Do you read the manga?
I haven't gotten to the manga. I've been reading a bunch of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime manga, and there's so much. And I'm trying to catch up so I can be up to date with the anime.
There's some hopeful things. They don't follow it, but there are some hopeful things that they might go for. That should be really cool.
Misaka Worst was really cool.
Yeah, but she hasn't. I don't know how much she'll be in Railgun.
I don't know, man. She's been in this last one. She's pretty prominent right now on Index.
And she's working real well with Accelerator.
Yeah. She creeps me out, but
That's why she works well with Accelerator.
yeah, she's
It's kind of
scary.
what they draw, because they didn't get to Accelerator and Railgun until Railgun asked for the anime, and it was like the second arc in the manga, so it's unknown whatever they're going to do with Railgun, because there's no second for that.
Yeah.
They have the
You
temporal
never know.
continuity of Doctor Who.
I feel like that's why they're waiting, you know, like till the end for it. But I don't know, man. I didn't ever expect a musical worst, so it could go anywhere at this point, right? Yes.
I was wondering what your thoughts on Hakuoki were.
I enjoyed. You know what's funny is that Sentai was like, "Can you please change your screensaver on your Facebook?" Because I had nothing but Chizuru for like years, like way past it. And they were like, "Can you change it?" I'm like, but I love her so much. I don't know. She was really real. You know, anything that is like super realistic was always really fun to be a part of. Because it's kind of out of the realm of anime for me. Like, anime is about the unrealistic and what could happen, but she was like based in the past and like in history, and there was something really real about her and her emotions and how she acted, which was really fun to act in because I had to like dial it back but try to be, you know, whole in my emotion, which was really fun for me to be part of, you know? Yeah. Excalibur. Sorry.
Did you have fun with We Got HK?
Everyone had fun with that.
That's the correct answer.
Is this crowd 18 and up?
No.
Yeah, we're younger. Okay. Well, yes.
Is the door have to be shut for this?
Yeah, every single time that I talk about Bigata HK to someone who hasn't seen it, I always say, before I talk about it, I'm like, bear with me. Let me tell you about this anime, but bear with me. I find it to be like a sweet coming of age story. And what's funny is that I know it seems really lewd and everything, but it's not near as lewd as they make it out to be. Like, if you heard what it was about, you would think it was lewd, but it's really like being in junior high or high school, like really being in high school, or like your how what you think is going to do things for you isn't real, and how you might think things will make you popular that aren't real, and you find someone and your actual goals aren't what your real goals were, and that love can change everything.
Yeah.
You know, and I find her to be very much like what it was like to be in junior high.
And also, I've always thought this about her DD recently, but she reminds me so much of the Lizzie McGuire doodle that Lizzie McGuire would do.
Yes, good one,
And it's just, I've been curious about that, but it's always bugging me because it's just so similar to like the Lizzie McGuire doodle.
Yeah, I guess, yes, that's actually legit. I find Yamada to be super sweet, and I can obviously not relate to her goals, but I can relate to how she fell in love and all that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And just so you know, for anyone that is not 18 and up, it isn't nearly as lewd as it seems.
It's not.
No, it actually isn't lewd at all. It's just kind of a sweet coming of age story about having the wrong ideas when you're in middle school and then learning that that isn't what life's about.
Blue humor is a term I like.
That's a good term. Yes, it's like that. It's a cool show, man. I had so much fun with the writing, and I've never heard euphemisms like that, so it was fun. Jamie and Leah did a really good job writing that. We had a good time. Like, I have modesty, look, I'm blushing. Yeah. Yes.
I mean, this is probably going to seem extremely cliched just because, I mean, Soul Eater character, but of all time, what was your most favorite line of Black Star's? Just that, like, if anyone would request, like, an impression of him at a con, that you would just instantly pick.
I already know.
I think I know, too.
Is that Sid's grave? We should piss on it.
Yeah, that was it.
Yes,
I was like,
that's exactly the one that I thought.
Spit. We actually recorded a spit, and then Toonami used Fist, and I was like, yeah, that was it. That's my favorite line of all
I thought
time.
that would be.
It ends up being like an awesome character, and it's
Yes.
just hilarious, and that's so Blackstar.
Yes,
He
it
a
is.
turd.
Yes,
Right?
he
He's
is.
a turd, right?
And what's even more messed up is it's his dad, for God's sake! It's a dude!
Yes, exactly. Like, he's a total turd.
Yes, he is.
I love him. And you know what? He'd be proud of him. Sid would be
Best
proud
kid ever, yeah.
He'd be like, I'm glad you pissed on
I don't know how Nagus would feel about it, but Sid would be like, good on ya.
Yeah, I remember recording Spit, but then seeing it on TV, you'd be like, that is Fist! Woo! I was way too excited about that.
Yeah.
I was way too excited.
Really happy effect.
Yeah, that's like my favorite line of all time. I think. Always. Forever. Yes.
Okay, so earlier in the panel, like this can of worms was opened, so I have to ask, with as few spoilers as possible, what point, if any point in the anime, did Angel Beats get you?
Oh, how do I start without spoiling it?
Oh, yeah, I know, right?
Like,
Yeah, is that possible?
Episode 7,
I mean, gosh, the entire conflict of Yuri
Yeah.
Yeah.
is tragic.
So-
Everything about her is tragic. The fact that she's accepted her fate is tragic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you meet her, she's just totally accepted. She has 100% accepted her fate and her being. She's not fighting it. She's just like, you're dead. Welcome to the not yet dead battlefront. Like, you know, everything about her character is tragic. Everything about all those characters are tragic.
Yeah.
It's a heavy show.
Oh,
You know, but I don't know, because you know what I'm talking about right now when I say I can't spoil it, because you know exactly the point I'm talking about that is the heaviest part of it.
Yeah.
When people are like, I love Angel Beats, I'm like, you know, what I say, like, so you like crying? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how to answer that without spoiling anime.
Yeah.
It's hard. That's how I feel right now about that time I got reincarnated as a slime. I'm like, how do I talk about this without spoiling everything that people haven't seen yet? But yeah, her entire conflict as a character is tragic. She is a tragic character, and she's so tough about it.
Yeah, especially the thing that she talks about in episode 2. That oh, that was hard. That was hard.
Exactly. Like she is a tragedy.
Yeah.
But she is